Hey everybody, it's Frankie-Lou. I'm coming to you today from the Grow to Gather homestead. We are nearing the end of August here, and pretty soon the peppers that are growing in my greenhouse are going to be ready to harvest, which is great. But I basically can never grow enough peppers for the amount I love to use because I love hot sauce. So the farmers market right now, they've got incredible deals on peppers, on hot peppers. So I went out and bought a huge baggie, and I'm going to show you guys a couple of tricks on how to make your own fermented hot sauce. I'm going to make two different kinds. One, as you can see, we have a theme here. You might notice I use this a lot in my canning, and lots of good reasons. Keep the heat out here is good. Another reason I like the fermented hot sauce is you don't really do much cooking, so you're not heating anything up, but you are creating this really lovely, delicious, yummy flavor that you just can't get from just making normal hot sauce. What I like to do, I'm going to do two different kinds for you today. I'm going to show you how to make a smoked pepper hot sauce with garlic, and I'm going to show you how to make another hot sauce with rhubarb. Another thing I'm always trying to do around here, because I have fabulous rhubarb plants, is figuring out how can I put rhubarb in this. It's something I ask myself almost every time I can. So I'm going to get started here. I've got a nice hot grill. I've put my smoking tray in. If you don't have one of these handy dandy ones, you can make one out of a tin foil wrapper. And I'm just basically going to throw almost 2 pounds of peppers just straight on the grill. When you are creating a hot sauce, I highly recommend that you use only the ripest peppers, because the fermenting process does tend to amplify any kind of bitterness that is in these peppers. So I'm using a mix here of some really nice ripe jalapenos and some lovely red ones as well. And as I said, I have the smoking tray going, because why not add extra flavor wherever you can, right? So I've got almost 2 pounds here. I'm going to put the lid on for a minute so that it smokes. I'll flip them once and then I'll start processing them. In the meantime, I have also gone out, grabbed a bunch of rhubarb from the garden, and I grabbed another variety of peppers from the farmer's market. I paid $2 for this, so why not try to make something out of it? And altogether I'm looking for about 2 pounds of peppers and rhubarb put together. Okay, so these have been on here for a minute. I'm going to flip them over now. A nice sear. Watch out for that hot chili oil. A nice sear, and also to let the smoke flavor infuse a bit into the peppers. Okay, so these peppers look like they're ready to come off now. It really has only been about 5 minutes since I started. You don't want to overcook them. You just want to give them a nice sear and a chance for some smoke to go in. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to process this one. This rhubarb chili one doesn't require any cooking, because I find that the rhubarb adds enough sort of flavor that I don't need the extra flavor. It's just sort of a more fruity version of what the other one I'm making is. So now I'm going to quickly chop myself up about 2 pounds total of both rhubarb and the Thai chilies. I want to take, with these nice little skinny chilies here, those big ones I want to split in half, but these ones, honestly, if I just take the lids off, just take the tops off, and pop it in with some of this, that's going to be enough, because it's small enough that they're going to ferment okay without being cut into multiple pieces. If you really want to make the fermenter's job a little bit easier, you could cut them in half. All right. So the fermenting process, what it does is it alters the sugars that are in your fruit and your vegetable that you're using, and there's some healthy bacteria that's creating a nice acid environment. So it's a really great way to promote food preservation, because you're getting that natural acid happening. The bacteria is flourishing, and it's the good bacteria, the kind you want in your tummy, It's like sauerkraut. We've all been told how great sauerkraut is for us and yogurt is for us. Well, fermented hot sauce is great for you too because it's transitioned into this nice probiotic material that's really good for your body to eat. A lot of you probably have tried sriracha, and one of the reasons why sriracha is such a popular hot sauce is because that is a fermented hot sauce, as I believe Tabasco is as well. So those guys are doing it. Why wouldn't you give it a try? It's so much easier too, so much less work than some of the other canning methods, because basically it's just a process of preparing everything in a sterile environment and then letting it sit for a week or two. All right, so now I've prepared my 2 different types of peppers with their ingredients that I'm gonna use to create the 2 different hot sauces. Now the primary thing that is really important that I do is create a really nice brine, okay, because the salt water is everything's gonna percolate around it. So for my brine, I use 2 liters of filtered water, okay, and I'm gonna add about 100 mils of pickling or sea salt to that. Mix that up to make a nice brine, okay, and that's what everything's gonna be percolating away in. It usually takes 2 to 3 weeks, I find, depending on the temperature. If it's really hot, it's going to be 2 weeks. Even in the house, sometimes it's really hot, no matter what we do. If I keep it in a cool, dark place, it's probably going to be about 3 weeks before this gets to that nice flavor. I have double sterilized these big jars that I'm going to do this in. I cleaned them in the dishwasher on the sterile function, and then I, just to be extra sure because I'm a little paranoid, I put it in the oven at 200 degrees for half an hour as well. So these are still quite warm to the touch. And I sterilized my canning funnel. I sterilized my weights, which I'll show you in a second. And now I've got my brine nicely stirred up. You want to just sort of dissolve that salt in there. And then what you're going to do is, I like to use a canning funnel for this. You're going to start packing your materials into the jars. This one is that nice seared jalapeno and red pepper. I've also put a whole head of garlic in here because I really love the garlicky flavor. And so I'm going to start putting that in here. I want to pack it in nicely. Okay. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you make enough brine that you can completely submerge your peppers or whatever it is you happen to be fermenting. And honestly, if you haven't fermented before, I really recommend looking it up because it's kind of changed my game a little bit when it comes to canning, because it's one of the easier ways to can. I like all kinds of pickling, and I find that the fermenting process is really fun. I know Angus really enjoys doing his pickles this way. He likes them better than the ones that I seal in the hard can and don't have to keep in the fridge. Okay, so this one is my other. This is my rhubarb and Thai chili pepper mix. So these are going to have 2 very different flavor profiles. One is going to be almost sweet and sour and hot, and the other one's going to be really garlicky and smoky and hot. Because if you're like me, I love hot sauce, and I like to try lots of different varieties. And so I started making lots of different varieties because I found it was getting a little boring at the grocery store there with the various options that were available. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour my nice salt water in these so that they're completely submerged. Okay, and you might even want to, if you have enough brine, bring it up to really close to the weights. Now, I went out and bought canning weights because I make enough fermented stuff that this is worthwhile for me. But I know people who have cleaned rocks, and that works too. Basically what you want to do is you just want to put something in there that's going to ensure that your brined materials are going to stay under the water. Okay, and you're gonna let that sit. I also went out and got myself some nice fermenting. They're burping lids. What they do is they allow the air that's going to be generated in here out, but they don't allow air in, because you do want to make sure that you don't get mold happening. You might see, as this is going, there's a couple things to look for as your fermenting process is going on. You might see bubbling. That's fine. Like, it might actually look a little bit like you got a jar of pop sitting on you, because there will be so many air bubbles coming up. That's fine. That's normal. That's supposed to happen. If you were to test it, it actually would taste fizzy. Sometimes you can eat pickles that when they're in midway through the process, they actually taste fizzy. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. That's a normal part of the process. What you don't, and you might also see a film on top. That's also a normal thing. I do remove that film. It doesn't need to be there. If it does happen, it probably happens about a quarter of the things I go to ferment. What you don't want to see is mold. I know people who skim the mold off, like, you know, fluffy, fuzzy mold, and continue to process. I don't do that. Maybe I'm a little paranoid, as I said before. At that point, I realized maybe I didn't do such a good job of sterilizing everything in the first place, and I tossed that batch out. I know people who have continued their fermenting process and not died. I'm not willing to take that chance myself. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place these in some coolish, darkish corner of my basement, and I'm going to let it sit for, I'm going to check it in 2 weeks. I'm going to test the flavor of my water here. And if it starts to have that nice vinegary flavor that I like, then I'll eat it. Then I will continue to prepare it. If it's not vinegary enough and that flavor hasn't developed enough, then I'm going to leave it another week. And what I'm going to do when I do go to process these is, after they've fermented to the appropriate amount, and normally where I keep it in the basement, it does take about 3 weeks, I'm going to drain them, save the reserved liquid, pop it in my food processor or my really handy dandy blender, and whiz it up, adding fluid, enough fluid as I go till I get to the right consistency. You can strain it if you want, but I personally do like a nice thick sauce, and I just write on the can, shake. Okay, I don't, you know, it will separate, but you're right, shake before serving, and then that's fine. You can strain it if you like, and then you'll get that more watery kind of sauce, more like a Tabasco. If you don't strain it, then you're going to get a thicker sauce, more like your sriracha. And another thing that you can do, now you can just pop it in the fridge like that if you want, and it'll keep for about a year. It will continue to slowly ferment if you do that. I really am a big fan of having room in my fridge because I need room in my fridge. So while it does stop the fermentation process and it does kill the bacteria, which is one of the reasons we do it, but it doesn't kill the flavor, is I do then can these into half-pint jars after I've whizzed it up, and I process in my hot water canner for 20 minutes, and then I can give it away for Christmas gifts, and I can open this up in February down in my cellar, and it's going to taste just as good as it did the day I made it. With that caveat that that great bacteria part will be gone. None of the flavor will be gone, but the good bacteria will have been killed in your hot water processor. So it's really up to you how you want to do it. Keep it in the fridge for up to a year, or hot water process it and don't have the good bacteria. So I hope you'll give fermenting a try. Please do read some more about it online, because I've given you a pretty quick run through here, and there's so much to learn about fermenting, and you might actually find yourself going down the rabbit hole of how cool this process is. But as per usual here at the Grow to Gather Homestead, if you have any questions, concerns, ideas, and stuff you'd like to see, please leave a comment for us and we'll get back to you. And I really, really hope you'll take this chance to grow together today. Have a good one.